Thank you. Good evening, family. I'm honored to be in community with you all, holding my daughter. As we wrap up the last day of summer and the last day of Black August, thank you so much for having me and for taking time to be here with each other. I know that's so important these days. As Sierra shared, I live in Harlem, New York, but I represent Philadelphia everywhere I go. So, hey, Philly. Today we close out two seasons, the warmth of summer and the remembrance of Black August. One reminds us of joy and gathering with picnics and sunshine. The other of struggle, sacrifice, discipline, and all of our ancestors that has taken their time and their sacrifices to really pour into us so that we can pour into the next generation. This last week of Black August, we remember dates that echo through history. I'm going to list a few. August 28th, the murder of Emmett Till. Also on August 28th in 1963, the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, and where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had his I Have a Dream speech. On August 29th, 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall, exposing the abandonment of Black communities within the United States. On August 30th, 1948, the birth of Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party, one of my favorite revolutionaries to lift up. Black August is not just history. It's a living reminder of how systems of oppression continue to criminalize and overpolice Black bodies. It is also a reminder of hope and discipline, that even in the darkest conditions, our people organized, resisted, and dreamed of freedom. And we are all people of faith, right? We can't ever let that go. So let us be clear that though we have so many injustices, these are not just past tense. Today, we see an administration that funds ICE to separate our communities. They defund education so that our people don't know our own history of not just struggle, but of victory. Today, our administration deploys National Guard troops in cities across the country. The same patterns of punishment and abandonment continue. Today is Sunday, and across the country, churches earlier today gathered during the day where preachers reminded its community members how to be good citizens, how to be good people so they can get into heaven. People earlier today were shared a message about holiness, about giving tithes, and about personal salvation. But many heard little, if anything, about the hellish conditions people are living in right now. People won't hear about the poor crush, about how poor people are being crushed under poverty, about families being torn apart by a mass incarceration, about children starving while billionaires play with rockets. They won't say much about Black and brown bodies being police profiled and killed. And I have to ask you, is that the gospel? Because when I open up my Bible, I've never heard or seen a quiet Jesus. I don't see a Jesus who told people to close their eyes and prayed away. I see a Jesus who walked into a temple, looked around at the corruption, and what did he do, Zuri? He flipped the table. Not to be rude, but to be real. But we made Jesus soft. And in truth, he was a radical. So we also lift him up and remember him during this Black August. Jesus was disruptive. He stood with the oppressed, not the empire. He spoke truth to power, not just comfort to the comfortable. And this is where Black August meets the gospel. As Sierra shared earlier, Black August was born in the 1970s inside prison walls when freedom fighters like George Jackson gave everything they had for liberation. It became a time to honor those who resisted. It became a time to study, to discipline ourselves, and to continue the good fight. And we must remember, even in slavery, churches were not just the places of prayer, they were also the places of planning where lots of slave rebellions happened in the church. The invisible churches hidden away from the eyes of slaveholders were where our people organized rebellion. Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, and countless unnamed ancestors used faith to resist, to gather, to rise. So the question is not, what would Jesus do? The question is, what will you do? What would we do? And I feel like that's where we are today when we come into community, not just to talk and criticize, but to leave each other with tools, tips, with love and community. Because the truth is, not everyone has a radical church home to go to. Not every church preaches justice. So here are some reflections. First, use your spirituality to gather, not isolate. It's not for you to feel holier than somebody else. You can gather in your living room, at a kitchen table, on a block corner to pray, to learn, to organize. Faith is not meant to shame, but to liberate. And as a believer of beautiful things, how can we inspire others to be believers and practice the values that we want to continue to practice? How do we bring in joy? How do we practice caring for our communities? How do we practice singing, coloring, painting the images that we want to see? Second, carry Black August beyond August. All of our ancestors did more work, not just in February, not just in August, but all around the year. So when September comes and when the capitalist holidays arrive in November and December, trying to drown us in consumption, remember Black August lessons, our discipline, our study, our sacrifice, our need for community during these dark times when, yes, we're celebrating the sun today, but when the sun sets at an earlier time and we are really prone to isolation and mental health issues, how do we honor our ancestors, not by shopping or just consuming, but by building true community? And the third, lastly, again, sustain yourself in community. Following Christ does not mean you are Christ. You're not called to carry the whole cross alone. And justice can feel endless, like wave after wave after wave. But you are not meant to drown by yourself. You are meant to link arms, to remind each other how to breathe, how to rest, how to keep going, how to tag each other in, to continue doing the good work. And here's where I want us to pause because sustaining ourselves is not only about struggle. Again, it's about joy, humor, love, and creativity. Our ancestors sang spirituals in the fields, songs of sorrow, yes, but also songs of laughter, coded with escape routes and freedom dreams. How are we doing that today? I think that's really important to call. How are we being called to bring joy into our justice work, to bring laughter because humor can break chains of despair, to love on one another fiercely because love is the ground we stand on. Justice work without joy collapses into burnout, and we cannot burn out. We need each other. Faith without love collapses into judgments. A movement without creativity collapses into despair. So, yes, study, yes, stay disciplined, yes, struggle, but also dance, paint, cook with each other, share recipes, take care of each other's kids, do a reading with other children because we're not alone and we cannot do this by ourselves as we tear down systems of oppression. But together we can build up true life. So thank you, Sierra. Thank you to this beautiful community as I hold my daughter. And I'm remembered that I have to continue to bring joy into a life that she can celebrate and remember her ancestors. So thank you all for allowing us to be on today's call.